Number 2, Paul Foster-Bell.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Sir, my question is to the Minister of Finance and asks, what reports has he received on the progress New Zealand is making in improving its external trade and investment position with the rest of the world?
Honourable Bill English.
Mr. Speaker, Statistics New Zealand this morning issued data showing New Zealand posted a balance of payments surplus of $1.4 billion in the 3 months to the 31st of March. This is the largest quarterly surplus on record before seasonal adjustments. It helped to reduce the annual balance of payments deficit to 2.8% of GDP, the smallest annual deficit since 2010, and another indicator of progress since the opposition parties decided there was a balance of payments crisis. Looking ahead, the deficit is likely to increase somewhat as capital investments pick up further and export prices come off their historic highs. We're working hard, though, to prevent a reversion to the deficit as large as it was between 2006 and 2008 under the previous government.
Supplementary question, Paul Foster-Bell.
How do the latest balance of payments and net international investment position statistics compare to the situation this government inherited nearly 6 years ago?
Honourable Bill English.
Mr. Speaker, both of these indicators have improved in the last 5 or 6 years. In late 2008, the balance of payments deficit was around 7% of GDP, having peaked at 7.9% in 2006. Today it's narrowed to 2.8% of GDP, acknowledging, though, that it is likely to deteriorate over the next couple of years. Our net international investment position has improved significantly. In 2009, New Zealand's liabilities to the rest of the world were equal to 85.9% of GDP. The latest figures are that this has improved substantially to 65.3% of GDP. Still high by international standards, but the lowest level of liability since 2001.
Supplementary question, Paul Foster-Bell.
Further supplementary. What were the main factors driving the improvement in New Zealand's balance of payments and net international investment position in March?
Honourable Bill English.
Speaker, there were a number of contributing factors. Goods exports across a range of commodities, with meat making the most significant contribution. Exports of services were also increased as overseas visitors to New Zealand spent more while they were here. Unfortunately, stats weren't able to count secret donations from Mr Dongwa Lu to the Labour Party.
Order.
He may have had...
Order. Supplementary question, Honourable David Parker.
Is he concerned about the conclusion of Chief Economist at the NZIER, Shamabeel Yacob, who says that the big gaps opening up in New Zealand are across geographical, race and education lines, and he thinks that this is one of the biggest challenges of New Zealand?
Honourable Bill English.
Mr Speaker, no, I'm not concerned about his conclusions. Mr Equab may have recently discovered that there's educational differentials within New Zealand. This government's been working very assertively to close up those differences over the last 5 years. It is now starting to make some significant progress, where, for instance, it's now much more likely that Māori and Pacific students will reach national standards and that they will pass NCA Level 2.
Supplementary question, Paul Foster-Bell.
To the Minister, what approaches to economic policy would put at risk the good progress being made with the balance of payments and net international investment positions?
Honourable Bill English.
Mr Speaker, really two things that the government's seeking to manage. One is a rapid rise in government spending has occurred up to 2008, and the government is managing that by curbing its own spending over the next few years. And the second is to work with councils to manage our fast-rising housing market, because continued inflation in the housing market will tend to force interest rates higher than they should be.
Question number 3, Grant Robertson.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. My question is to the Minister for Economic Development. Did he meet with the Chief Executive of the